So, welcome to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And today is going to be episode 100 and I don't know why I even bother numbering these things. Half the time I forget the numbers. 196, 196. And today is May the 7th, 2025. And I always share those dates because I want people to know when in time and space these transmissions take place. But it's just so much fun the way these transmissions happen. I can't make it happen. It just happens. This is God, Holy Spirit, Krishna, Buddha, Bambi, Baba, whatever you want to call it. It does not care what we call it. It is the source of all that is. It is the force of creation, the power of joy, the infinite presence that is with us forevermore. It just is. And it just moves information through every single one of us. It doesn't matter if we're aware of it or not. It is happening. This whole journey of waking up is so we can align with that movement, so that we can connect to that flow, so we can let ourselves be the recipients of the high frequency and the joy of flowing with God or flowing with love or flowing with Bambi. It doesn't matter what we call it. As a matter of fact, when we call it something and define it and confine it in a definition, we limit what it is. So we inevitably limit our ability to access it, which is what religion has done so extremely well. Defines what God is, and now everybody is fucking confused because everybody's got their own definition of God. And now we're fighting each other over the definition and not actually connecting with the essence of what God is. And it's so funny because I'm not one that cusses much, but for some reason, when I connect to the source of Jesus, he's funny. He throws those cuss words out there, and they go out so fast I don't have time to pull them back and monitor my ladylike language. But anyways, just, it cracks me up. It really truly is so much fun. But today, such an important day. Every day is important because every day is in the now. And whether you're watching this a month from now, a year from now, 3 years from now, it doesn't matter. You're receiving it in your now moment. And in that now moment, the message is transmitted just as validly. This is why eventually, as the Course in Miracles teaches us, we're using time to undo what has been created over time. And the reason I believe that the source of creation has given us this timeless wisdom is so that we all recognize that while we are in this human incarnation, we need to use time. We need to make friends with time. And let's use time appropriately. To use it appropriately is to be enjoying life. If you're not enjoying life, is because you're attached to something from the past. You're anchored, you're weighed down, you're held back, you're blocked. Whatever example you want to use, it doesn't matter. Either you're flowing or you're not. If you're going with the current, life is fun and easy. You will be taken to whatever destination you're supposed to go to. But if you're resisting, you're anchored to something. You are holding on to the banks of the river somewhere, somehow. It doesn't matter if it's a rock or a branch or a root. It does not matter. When you're holding on, the river is moving and you're not. That creates discomfort because now the river is hitting on you. Now you're having FOMO, fear, missing out. Everybody went down and you're still there. And here's the thing about the attachments. Well, tonight we got a party, or today we got a big party here, big community gathering. So when we are attached to the past, we are operating from what our name is based on somebody give it to us when we were born, what our ethnicity is because it's what we were defined as when we were born, what our religion is typically given to us by birth, what our political affiliation should be typically impressed upon us through our growing up years. We're anchored to the past on what religion is about because most of us, not all, of course, there's exceptions, but most of us were introduced to a religion by our mother, father, um, grandmother, grandparents, and or uncle or somebody that took us when we were little, that leaves an impression. And click, we anchor ourselves to that as our reality. So the Course is inviting us to look and question everything. The Course in Miracles, one of my absolute favorite teachings, although I have many, many teachings that I love, but I haven't found any, and I have been studying, I've been on this journey almost 25 years. I haven't found a single teaching as clear, as precise, as concise, and as determined to help us train our mind to turn on itself and look at all of the ways that we have anchored ourselves in the past, in information, in identities, in attachments, to turn your mind on itself and begin to question you is not a thing for the faint of heart, because you have to start, number one, with curiosity. Number two, you cannot enter into the sacred space if you think you already know it all. So there has to be a humbleness. There has to be a recognition that we have ignorance within us, meaning it's not a bad thing, meaning we don't know it all. In that recognition, I don't know it all, there is an opening, because the ego take goes down, because the ego's the I know it, I know everything, I'm right about everything. So you gotta, it's like, whoa, down, boy, down, girl. You bring it down, you calm it down, and you take command as the one who is now consciously aware that you have a voice that is arrogant, a voice that is ignorant, a voice that is the voice that it's the only voice that gets you in trouble. It's a voice that anchors you and doesn't let you flow. It's the voice that needs to be right about what it knows. And sometimes it needs to be right about what it doesn't know. I'll tell you a funny story. I will never, ever forget this story. I, let me see, the father of my children, Philip, he was an English major, went to school for writing, super, super intellectual, and reading all kinds of things and writing. I mean, really, really smart dude, mostly about English. He could tell you anything about a word, proper, not proper, blah, blah, blah. And when we were newly married, we were in our mid-20s. We happened to get together a couple of years later with one of my sisters. My sister, I'm not going to mention her. I have three of them, so I'll keep everybody guessing. But anyhow, that one particular sister loves being right about everything. And I used to love being right too. Don't, by all means, I'm going to admit my part. All of us like being right. But this one sister, you took being right to the next level. And one day we were having this discussion, and the whole family was there, all the sisters. I think we all had kids that were teeny weeny kids, babies, maybe toddlers. And a word came up. Somebody mentioned the word, and Philip went on to say what it was. And my one sister says, "No, that's not what it means. It means this." And Philip said, "Well, let's look in the dictionary. Let's see what the dictionary says." And wherever we were, whoever's house it was, got the dictionary, opened it up, and read the definition. It was exactly as Philip had said. And I'll be damned. My sister, and again, I'm not going to tell you her name, she said, "Well, then the dictionary is wrong." And we all busted out laughing. We were like, what? And she was serious. Talk about righteousness at a level that I think up until then, I knew righteousness. I knew my righteousness for sure, but I had never been so bold to say, not only am I right, but whatever's in the dictionary, it's wrong if it doesn't say what I say, and it better have my picture in it too. So, anyways, I think if I were to look in the dictionary today next to the word arrogance and ignorance, my sister's photo would be right there. And of course, mine would have to be there too, because we are all one. But, anyways, that when I started my journey and I started connecting with God, and I started hearing the voice of Jesus guiding me to turn my attention inward, to flip my, instead of looking out there for the answers, to come inside and to become vigilant for what was happening inside of me. I spent years analyzing what I was saying, what I was feeling, what I was doing, how one correlated to the other. Sometimes I would do charts and I would say, well, I had this thought, so and so is, yeah, I don't like so and so. And then I would have this feeling and I feel angry or righteous. And then I would make arrows. Well, this thought made me feel this way, and this feeling this way caused this other thought. Well, I'm better than she is. And I began to map out my mind, my thoughts, and my feelings. And I saw every single time I have a thought, I have a feeling. And I remember people saying, well, when you have a feeling, you get a something happens and it's spontaneous. You don't have time to think. Technically, you don't have time to think, but the thoughts that we have agreed to as our identity are not thought about. They are a knowingness that we take on that blocks us from knowing who we are as God created us. So it takes time to notice the feeling, notice the reaction, and go trace it back to the thought that originated that thought. And you are going to go through a long process. If you do it correctly, and I'm using that word loosely because there's nothing right about this. There's only a following the feeling that allows you to find liberation. So whatever path you take is going to be perfect. However, Course in Miracles is a course in training our minds so that we can get to the relief that we're looking for a lot faster. And so we don't wander in the wilderness for as long as we have, which most of us is lifetimes, thousands upon thousands of lifetimes coming back in. And we leave at this level and we come back at this level. We leave at this level, we come back at this level. We leave at this level, we come back at this level. We leave at this level, we come back at this level. You can see how slowly the process is because the frequency that we retain as our identity creates a set point that we have to work through. No different than how we set the thermostat in our house to be comfortable. The outside can be freezing right now. We had snow here again today. It was like, holy cow. But it's mostly melted now because it's been so warm recently. But I woke up to an inch of snow outside and I went, oh my God, I'm in the twilight zone here. But, anyways, it can be super freezing outside as it was for it to snow. So it had to be below, 32. And in the day, it's going to get a lot warmer. And when the sun comes out, may even get into the low 60s. Doesn't matter what's going on outside. There's a set point inside. It doesn't matter what the truth is. Your set point is set by your decision to believe what you believe is true. And once you set that set point, well, like my sister proved, the dictionary is going to be wrong. Even if the dictionary is agreed upon as this one source that provides the most accurate definition of whatever it is that we're looking for. So we have to be really, really clear that the entire work of awakening is a turning our mind on itself. We got to come in and look at what has created the discomfort that I am trying to no longer experience. And the key thing is to recognize the discomfort is created by me because I don't know who I really am. I think I know who I am based on what all these lovely people told me that I am, my mother, my father, my teacher, my preacher. They all said who I was. This is the sweet one. This is the loud one. This is the one that doesn't sit down and stops moving. This is the one who is, well, not living up to her greatest potential. This is the one who, well, she's a girl. This is what ladies do. And if she does this, then she's going to be bad and a sinner. All of those things determined who I was. And I was right about that. That's the truth because I'd agreed that they know me better than I know myself. I'm just a baby, so they must know who I really am. So I never questioned what anybody told me was true about me. I just accepted it because that's how the ego works its magic. We come in as innocent babies. We don't have information in our head. And like little sponges, we take it in, we record it in our mind, and it becomes what we regurgitate. And this is who I am because it's what they said. Do you know how painful it is? And I'm sure every single one of you have experiences when we go against the family norms. When I changed my political affiliation, oh my God, everybody gasped. When I changed my religious affiliation, everybody gasped. When I decided to not be how everybody expected me to be and I started changing, oh my gosh, everybody gasped because now they couldn't relate to me. They couldn't plug into me because I wasn't the same plug that they could plug into. I was changing, I was morphing, I was moving out of my agreement with others and beginning to discover the truth of who I am as God created me. You got to turn in on yourself. You've got to be willing to question every thought, to question every feeling, to trace them, to see the point of origin. And as you look at all of that, you will come to the place of realizing that there was a beginning when none of that was there. You can at the very least say, well, before conception, none of that was true. You weren't even conceived. They didn't even know they were having a child. They did not even know even that you were going to exist. So the soul that you are that inhabited that body, that powered it and gave it its part of its personality wasn't even part of your mother, father, teacher, preacher's idea. So what were you before the point that you began to be defined by those around you, confined to definitions of your culture, of your, family, of your planet? We think we're so smart down here on planet Earth, but start looking at all the other planets, those beings that are so bright and brilliant. You know why they don't really show up more? I've come to realize is because they're not stupid. They know we're dangerous. They know we are the troublemakers in the galaxy. They know we're the ones who are quick to shoot each other. We will take them down. And they're just so entertained by watching our antics. They don't show up like the movies indoctrinate us to believe they're going to come in here and take me to your leader and get rid of everybody. No, they're not. They're over out there watching, going, "Oh my gosh, this is like kindergarten down here. Kindergartners with guns and bullets and big trucks and nasty things." So they're not coming until we grow up. But who we were before we got labeled is closer to those beings that are from dimensions that we don't know because our mind has not been allowed to go that far in questioning who we really are. That takes time. But the more we move into the higher frequency, into the fifth dimension of consciousness, meaning we begin to explore the truth that is beyond what we know, we are going to come into the infinite cosmos, the infinite universe. We're one with all that is because we are made of the same frequency, the same energy that everything is made of. There is no not being what we are, but there is a denying that we are who we are because we prefer to have a little bit of time, let's call it a lifetime, pretending to be something other than what we are. And that's okay. We all love costume balls. I mean, Halloween is one of the funnest times of the years because we can dress up and pretend to be somebody we're not. But aren't you tired of wearing that mask year after year after year, decade after decade, lifetime after lifetime? If you're tired of always showing up as the mask and you want to show up as the real you because you want to know who you are, if you're wearing a mask for all those decades, you forget who you are. So you're easily swayed to participate with the groups that you have identified with. I mean, look at the state of politics right now. We have created, really, right now we've got three camps, but we, for the most part, had created two camps, the liberals and the conservatives. And now you're seeing that some people are not just over here, they're more here, and some people are not just over here, they're more here. So we're creating really three groups: those who are staunch on their side and lean more towards the far side of wherever they're at, and those who are moving more to the middle. And when you move more into the middle, that's when you don't need to be so right about anything, at least not and bash other people with it. You may still have an arrogance and a righteousness about you know what's right for you, and you may not be letting God in, and that's between you and God. But you're not needing to prove to other people things because once we begin to move to the middle way, we don't like bouncing in discomfort. We don't really like doing that so much. But once you're in that middle way, you can find a level of comfort and peace and still be righteous. And that's okay because there are lots of stages to this journey. There is a stage where we have to go to pride. Pride is a very important stage. And I'm not talking about the parade with all kinds of colorful flags. I'm talking about pride, and you know who you are. You know who you are, and you're coming to honor your own thoughts, feelings, emotions. You're turning inwards. As a matter of fact, to go down this journey, to really begin to move down this spiritual journey, you must be somewhere in this pride and courage frequency, meaning it takes a lot of courage to question what you believe. Because when you begin to question what you believe, you've got to start questioning all the people who taught you that. And most of them are people you loved. You got to start going, huh, my grandmother really loved me, but she taught me things about the church. She taught me things about God that are simply not true. Is it okay for me to go through the betrayal and say, I'm not going to do it your way anymore? Is that am I ready for that? It took me a while to get to prepare myself to recognize that my grandmother was wrong. I thought she was right about everything, and to recognize that she basically flat out told me lies, indoctrinated me with lies. But she didn't know that they were lies. To her, they were the truth. So who taught her? I had to go backwards. Who taught her? Who taught them? Who gave her all this information? And little by little, I began to realize it's just hand-me-down beliefs, but they all, if it's Christian, it has a point of origin. You can go back to the year 325 and go to when Emperor Constantine created the Catholic Church, and boom, the New Testament comes from there. So what was there before the New Testament? This is turning consciousness on itself. This is you going inward and questioning everything from a place not to find who to blame, because if you're doing that, you're not encouraged. If you're looking for who to blame, you're in a lower frequency of rage, which means you're in revenge. That's a very different frequency. This is why when you break down these frequencies, it makes a huge difference in understanding where you are. And of course, as humans, we're fluctuating because we could be in anger with maybe a recent divorce, but we could be in a place of courage in something else, and in stepping up and standing up in the community for something that is important. So we can be in fluctuating frequencies, but they all have a collective set point. And the fastest way to find your set point is just take an inventory of how you react to things. Because when you react, that's when you can see where you're anchored in a lower density. And you're going to have that reaction. If you're able to respond, well, you don't have so many heavy densities weighing you down, but maybe you have some reactions, not full blown blast them or whatever, defend yourself, but you have a reaction and you recognize it. When you become self-aware, you have to recognize your reactions because you're learning from them, because you're learning how to move to that place of understanding that in your defenselessness, your safety lies. But until you get there, we're taking everything and assessing everything. And these are the kinds of things I'm going to go about in more detail in the membership community that I'm going to be launching, because I need many, many more hours to put all this information out there. And then people can take it at, however they can take it, whether you can come live or you watch it later. But I'm going to break things down into specific topics and give specific classes on those topics. And some of those topics, you can be on them for weeks to discuss the nature of reality, to discuss emotions, the power of emotions, how emotions work, how they're connected to one another, how you got to move through them, how suppressing them, denying them doesn't help anything. They create bypass, spiritual bypass. If you know spirituality and you're suppressing your emotions, it's spiritual bypass. I'm too spiritual to feel that anger. No, you're being arrogant in thinking you're too spiritual, because if you were feeling that anger, if you were feeling that revenge and you were holding it with compassion, you could trace it to where it came from. You could get the lessons, because the course tells us everything is a lesson God would have us learn. So if you were doing if you had all the tools, which is what I want to do with this membership, give you all the tools, you come and pick the one that you need when you need it, because things are accelerating. The shift in consciousness is accelerating. The bifurcation is accelerating. And all that that means is it's going to become super, super evident very, very soon, in the not too distant future. Those who are operating in alignment with the higher frequencies, meaning transparency, love, gentleness, compassion, kindness, collaboration, cooperation, they're being moved. The numbers are growing and they're coming together, and there's so many people in the millions who are going to be co-creating a new earth. They're co-creating a happy dream where nobody has to argue. Everything is out in the open, everything is transparent. Then there's the other side, the egoic side, where we are going to hold on to our righteousness, which means we're going to be defending it. And inside of that battle, who's going to be right? That group is going to come together in that frequency, and they're going to, over time, just eventually destroy each other, because the one that needs to be right is not going to stop until they make everybody wrong disappear. However, they do that. And that's what we've been seeing in the third dimensional world. That's the way of the ego. And that's going to stay like that for those who are operating at this dimension, while those who are moving to a higher dimension are just going to bifurcate. You're just going to not be around people who are not like vibration, because there's not a whole lot in common. If they just want to complain and judge other people, and you're into upliftment and being neutral, you're going to have a lot of conversations where you're just going to sit there and go, well, that's interesting. And you're not going to have anything to say. You're not going to go to those parties very often. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience, because I had to gravitate towards other conversations where it was about, okay, what can we co-create? Instead of what can we tear down and who can be right, it's what can we co-create and what can we build? This section that we are inside of the Course in Miracles. And today we're going to complete this section, because we're going to look at the last paragraph. We're in chapter 3. Chapter 3, the title of it is The Innocent Perception. Before we incarnated, we knew we were going to come in and have an experience. Before we decided to separate from God and listen to the voice of the ego, we knew who we were. We knew who we truly were. But we knew that the minute that we listened to the ego, the minute we go through the process of incarnation and then move into indoctrination, a veil of information was going to be created. You can call it a veil of forgetfulness. We were going to start believing so many things, and they were going to become so real and solid that we were going to start creating a veil, a distance between my innocence and who I think I am, which now I need to defend and I need to protect it at all costs, because it's my identity. So we move from innocence to identity. And it kind of happened just flawlessly. It's a beautiful game, isn't it? It's a beautiful game of forgetting who we are. For Halloween, it takes us 30 minutes to put on the mask. It takes us about 12, 13, 14, 15, 18 years to put on the egoic identity mask. So that's why it takes time to undo what got created over time. You see how this works? This is why the Course is so brilliant, because it says things that are so profound that if your mind is not prepared to understand it, I mean, you miss it. So we are in section number 6. The title of this section is Judgment and the Authority Problem. So we have been looking here over time that judgment, judging others, is how we project onto others what we can't see about us. That is why we have an authority problem. Because when I judge and I think I'm right and I'm judging, like my sister, the dictionary is wrong. Well, she was projecting onto the dictionary she was wrong. But she couldn't admit she was wrong because her ego was identified in being right. And if she would have been wrong about that, it would have shattered who she wanted all of us to think of her as this smart person. But here's the crazy thing about the ego. All she did was show us really how not smart she was. And we all were stunned and basically just had to laugh because the ego doesn't see what it does. The ego cannot turn on itself. It just will not do that. That is why we have to be at a certain level of courage and pride. You've got to be really prideful, but this is pride in alignment with spirit, saying, you know what, I deserve better. I deserve better than to be righteous. I deserve better than to still operate in arrogance. I need to humble myself and recognize I cannot possibly know it all. It's not possible. So let me humble myself and have the courage to come within and begin to look at things, look at those judgments. What is that judgment about? Why do I need to be right? You're going to trace it back down to third grade or second grade or first grade or some one of those early grades when you were shamed in front of the class or you were shamed in front of your family or you were um, caught with bad grades or something and you got in big trouble. It is going to be tied to somewhere in your journey that you built over time that you decided you weren't smart enough. So what does the ego do? It only has two options. It's going to be a victim of it and go, I'm not smart enough, so I might as well give up and do nothing. No, I'm not going to study. I'm going to drop out of school. I'm not going to learn anything else. I'm not smart enough. Or it's going to turn into a bully. Oh, well, I'm going to show them then. And now you're going to go study and become the smartest and get that PhD and get all those certificates and put them all, plaster them on your wall so everybody can see how smart you are. And you're going to talk about it and you're even going to get letters behind your name and they may even call you doctor. And they may even call you, I don't know, your honest, your not your honesty, your highness or something like that, majesty because the ego is going to do everything to protect anybody seeing that I'm not smart enough, or I'm going to enhance that I'm not smart enough, so I might as well drop out. Might as well not even bother with the grades. We're going to do one of two things. We're going to cover it up and build it out, or we're going to flaunt it and show it and not even care. But you got to go to that moment that you thought that you were going to be shamed or you were in trouble because you were wrong about something. So now for the rest of your life, you cannot afford to be wrong to the point that when it's clear that you're wrong, you're making a fool out of yourself. But a fool doesn't know that they're a fool. That's something that we have to understand is when you're not prepared to put the mirror in front of you and really look at yourself and really know who you are, we're all acting like fools because we're all doing foolish things that are blocking the truth of who we are as God created us. And judgment is the key to understanding where you're holding that old pain that Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. Where am I holding that pain of being made embarrassed in front of everybody and made to look like I was stupid? You got to get to that because, as I said earlier, what's behind that? Who were you before somebody labeled you stupid or you labeled yourself stupid? Who were you before that? You were just a blank, empty mind, a sponge taking in information, but like everybody else, you had access to all knowing. And instead of being taught to access all knowing, we're taught to access this little bit of information. Well, if the teacher is handing you information that is boring, that is, 20 years old, that holds no interest, and you don't do well on that test because it wasn't interesting, now for the rest of your life, you're going to be labeled not smart or stupid or dumb or, there's something wrong with you because of that one thing. Well, that's what humanity has done. We're given all this information from the outside and told that this is what we're going to be measured by instead. And the reason they didn't do this for two reasons. One, they couldn't do this because most of them were ignorant. They did not know what they did not know. And two, they couldn't do this because those who were arrogant and thought that they knew it all had an agenda, and the plan was to control what you learned to keep you from accessing all knowing. Because if you had access to all knowing, would you be listening to any of these people who think that they are in control, that they are in charge, that they're smarter than you? You wouldn't. Once you access source and you access God and you tap into the flow of all intelligence that has been, will be, that we don't even know is possible, but is in the field of possibility. Once you tap into that, you don't need no stinking pieces of paper that tell you that you're smart or not smart. You don't need anybody to validate it. You know what you know, and you know where to tap in for this source. This is why we have so many amazing people, and I can't remember who it was, but we had an inventor. Is it Edison maybe? He would go take a nap, and he would take a nap, and in the nap, he would get all these in these dreams, all these ideas, and he'd wake up and he'd have all these ideas to share. And there were so many inventors and musicians and people who tap into that field, and they tell you what they have to do is they have to kind of unplug, and then they align and they go into that place where they can begin to flow with all inspiration. And in that flow, they grab something. It's like they grab a fish that's swimming downstream, and then they wake up and come back and say, "Oh, look what I caught! I caught this song. I caught this idea. I caught this innovation." Well, everybody goes to that source to tap into it. But yet, we send our children to the education to be educated by people who know very little, who forgot to fish, and who are just handing you these dried out, fish sticks and telling you, "Don't know, this is good. This is what you need to know." So we've got to redo our mind to start thinking more accurately with God instead of with the ego. So we learn judgment and the authority problem. This is key. You will not wake up if you don't understand this. So judgment is how we see that we are blocking authority. It's really plain and simple because judgment always involves rejection. You reject yourself, your truth, like my sister rejected saying, "You know what? I'm sorry. I did not know that. I was mistaken," which is innocent. We have to acknowledge our innocence. I'm innocent. I don't know it all. And then from that place, be humble enough to ask, to have the courage and the pride to say, "Please teach me something new. I'm here to learn." But the arrogance keeps us in low frequency. So we went through these various chapters, and we began to realize that there is an incredible peace that comes in, that we feel when we recognize that to judge is really, it's not helpful. That to judge is to block the light in another with the shadow that we're casting, because every judgment is a projection of what I can't see inside of me. But we find this inner peace when we begin to see, judgment, that's the ticket. That's the way to begin to undo what I'm experiencing. That irritation becomes an invitation to see the ego's motivation. And when you turn your consciousness inwardly, when you begin to turn on yourself, which is so important, and you're no longer arrogant and you are recognizing, "No, I don't know it all," in that humbleness, you can then begin to take that irritation as the invitation, and you begin to question your ego's motivation. Well, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why was I motivated in having everybody think that I'm right? Well, because I don't want to feel the pain that I felt when I was a little girl and I was made wrong. Okay, well, I'm 30 years old or 40 years old. Do I still want to be acting like that 7-year-old that was embarrassed? Can I be a 30-year-old or a 60-year-old that says, "You know what? I don't know the answer to that. I am so glad that there's a dictionary here. I'm so glad that you know the answer. Thank you for expanding my awareness." But the arrogance of the ego doesn't allow itself to receive from the outside unless it's looking for evidence to validate what it does know. So at some point, we're going to be laughing at the insanity that we have been accepting as the ego, because the authority problem is that we don't know that we were authored by the creative source of everything. We are made in the image of the all-knowing. And if we're made in that image, all-knowing is within us. Not to clog our brain. That would be too much. That would be way difficult for our human brain. And we don't need to know it all. We really don't. but so that we know that there is a flow of intelligence, of knowledge that is swimming by, and we can catch whatever it is that we want to catch from it. But you can't enter into that flow without humbleness. Without humbleness, that's why we have to become like a little child. Be humble enough to be innocent enough to not know it all. And then, with the joy and the wonder of a little child, you're like, yes, I want a new song. I want a new idea. I want a new invention. I want a new inspiration. And guess what? God, source, spirit is the source of infinite potentials, infinite possibilities. Don't you think? It just wants all of those open vessels who are willing to bring out more and more. The world is in the situation that it's in, especially if you look at the financial systems. We're operating under outdated financial systems. And we have people who are telling us that that's the only way to do it. And they don't really like the changes that are coming, especially with what crypto is bringing to the game. They don't like those changes because then they can't keep doing it the way that they've been doing it, and they had a good system going. They don't want to flow. So what do? They're suing the people who are bringing the inventions. Well, there's something wrong with you. There's something illegal about you. How can it be illegal? It never was before. You know it's illegal. How do you know it's wrong? How do you know it doesn't work if you haven't tested it and tried it? But the people behind their labels, I'm the head of the SEC, I'm the head of the this or that, the financial system. No, it's this way. Well, you know, one of the most important things that's going to happen in the not too distant future, we're not going to have old fuddy-duddies, men or women, running anything very soon. Because the longer you're here and the more you're attached to what you know, you're operating only with what's in your brain, not accessing what's in the mind of God. We are realizing we don't want that for much longer. We want fresh, young ideas. We need to invert this pyramid that the older ones move to the top of wisdom. No, they're the ones who've lost the most wisdom because they have blocked it with more nonsense. Who are the wisest? The little ones. It's so clear in all of the wonderful texts that speak truth. We have to become like a little child because a little child is not trying to pretend to be what it's not. It's just being its own innocent little self. That's why they cry in the middle of the grocery store. That's why they, say what they say. They pick their nose and wherever they are because they don't care. They're not concerned with what other people think. The ones who've been here the longest and have risen to positions of a lot of power and stuffiness, they don't remember the truth. So here we are, paragraph number 11. And I tell you paragraph 11, and paragraph number 10 starts with peace is a natural inheritance of spirit. When you turn your awareness on yourself, when you begin to question why you say what you say, why it comes out the way that it does, why it shows up with whomever it shows up with, you begin to see the correlation between your thoughts and how you feel. And when you begin to slow down the thoughts before you say them, or even before the full sentence is thought in your mind, and you start feeling that, you can stop it. You can respond to it, and you can see how that thought goes down, and you go, ah. When that thought comes up, you got to put on your armor and go to battle and defend yourself. But when you take that off and no, I'm not going to think that thought. No, I'm not going to think that I'm better than this. Ego, you look at of course, you're going to feel a little schizophrenic, but you look at your ego and you go, I'm not listening to you. And you look at your soul and you go, I feel so much better to not be right and just be at peace. And you feel peace and you realize peace is a natural inheritance of spirit. It's who you naturally are. That inflation was learned, was programmed into you, but you didn't know it. You didn't know it. So, paragraph 11. There is no one who does not feel that he is imprisoned in some way. Well, isn't that accurate for all of us? Imprisoned by your money, imprisoned by your job, imprisoned by, the children that you got to take care of, or the in-law that you're taking care of, or imprisoned by your body. You can't get out of the house because something happened to you, you're bed bound or whatever it might be. You're in prison because you don't have, your car just got hit and you can't get out. You don't have the money to get an Uber, whatever. Most of us, well, there is not one of us that does not feel he is imprisoned in some way. These, this is the most important thing to understand. What is imprisoning us? If you're a child of God, you're free. You're as free as God created you. You're not bound by anything, not even your body. Jesus showed us that on the crucifixion. He showed us they put him on a cross, but who he is didn't stay there. Who he is moved on from that because he's not a body. He was free. That's the primary lesson Jesus was teaching us. I'm not a body 2,000 years ago. So he comes back 2,000 years later to bring us a Course in Miracles with a little more detailed information, because we didn't get it back then with the simplicity of what he did. So now we're going to get the big book. It's going to be thrown at us with all the information, all the details. Now, if we study it and we apply it, then we will discover that we have been imprisoned, and yet the imprisonment are always going to be thoughts in our mind. Sure, we can be imprisoned in a jail cell. Yes, ask Mandela. He can tell you he was in a jail cell. But was his mind imprisoned? In the beginning, it was. And then he began to realize, well, I don't have to let my mind eat me up. I'm in here anyways. Let me free my mind so that while I'm here in this confinement of a jail, I can at least connect to God. And what happened? He was inspired. And what did he do? He led a nation. Was he getting his PhD on how to be a political president? Or no, he wasn't studying all that. He was tapping into the source of all that is, bringing that information through him. And that in that what came through him was so compelling and so it touched people at their core. Of course, they wanted him to be a leader because he was somebody who connected with God and had in his heart of hearts what was best for the greater good. He moved out of selfishness, which is what the ego is all about. It's all about me, and moved into how can I be in service? And he didn't have to go get a PhD. Would he call himself stupid because he didn't have all those certificates next to his name? No, he tapped into the source of all knowing. When you tap into that, I mean, a certificate, that's please, it's like, come on, let's get real here. We're talking God knowledge. You can't put a label on that. So, if this is the result of his own free will, he must regard his will as not free. Oh, I didn't put myself in jail. Something else must have done it. It couldn't have been me. I don't have free will. Look, I'm put in jail. I don't have free will. I'm poor. I don't have free will. My husband left me. I don't have free will. I got fired. That's the insanity that we are stuck inside of, the prison of believing other people have power over us. Not only do they give us the certificates and let us know how smart we are, but they decide if we get to be free or we're not, if we get to pass go and collect $200 or not. We have got to get clear that the only prison we want to get out of is the one in our own mind, made by our own beliefs that have become so solid that they are like bars and keep us from doing things. Has anybody ever called you on a day where you are home doing not much of anything, and they invite you to go out and, oh, we're going to go try this restaurant, and you have nowhere to go. You have nothing to do. You're just sitting around watching probably the TV and you have nothing to do. And you go, I'm busy. And I'm busy, or I don't like that kind of food. You know what that is? Bars that you place around you. I'm busy, excuse to get up from the couch because you're enthralled in the television. The television is just, it is feeding stuff into your mind. It's like pouring it into your head. You don't even know. Oh, I don't like that restaurant. It's a bar that we place. So we stop being curious. So we stop trying different things. So we become predictable, so that then the iPhone or the Google knows how to send you the advertisement for your favorite restaurant. And that's the only one you're going to see. It's the only one you're going to go to. But our curiosity gets blocked at a very young age. And as we get older, we create those prisons and block curiosity. And then you think, oh, I don't have free will. This is happening to me. So it asks here, if this is a result of his own free will, he must regard his will as not free, or the circular reasoning in this position would be quite apparent. I keep doing the same thing over and over again, and I don't get different results. The circular reasoning, I keep coming back to the same thing, would be so apparent, but it's not apparent. Why? Because we don't have pride and courage. We're not at that frequency to question things. We don't have the courage to question. We're down here in the, oh, I'm afraid if I upset the status quo. I'm afraid if I break out of my predictable box. Free will must lead to freedom. Free will must lead to freedom. If you want to change something, it will lead you to the freedom that you desire, but you have free will. But it starts with the recognition of what are you believing that keeps you in prison versus what new belief must you cultivate to help you move out of your area of discomfort. People who will say, I'm shy. I don't have any friends, but I'm shy. I don't like talk to people. Well, God didn't make any of us shy, not one. That is a characteristic that we learned. We probably picked it up because we might have been one of six kids, and well, we stayed shy. And either we stay shy and we stay quiet because everybody else got all the attention, or we'll become the loudmouth in the family because we want to get the attention. One way or another, we're going to be programmed with our personality characteristics based on our idea of what makes me survive. Can I survive if I stay quiet? I'm going to put a prison around me. I'm shy. I'm introvert. I can't talk to anybody. But I'll tell you what, you have free will. Do you want to keep being shy? No, I want more friends. Well, then you have to use your free will and you will be free. Do you hear that? Free will utilized in motion will let you be free. Free will, you have to will yourself into your freedom. There's no way around it. We cannot continue to say, oh, I'm not good at that sport. If you don't try it and decide through free will to get better at it, you're right. This is why that I love that Henry Ford quote. It's so powerful. He says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And if we believe a thought long enough, especially because they're all lies, if we believe a lie long enough, it becomes our truth. I'm an introvert. Oh, I have to get all the attention. I am, that's who I am. No, you don't have to get all the attention. There is a middle way. And all the attention is because somewhere inside of you, you felt you did not get enough. You felt you were, cast aside, not heard, whatever the circumstances, doesn't matter. Go find it. But none of us, when we are in our authenticity, know the author of our creation, ever has to move from the middle way. In the middle way, you're balanced. You're introvert when you need to be. Sometimes I don't want to go talk to anybody. I'd rather stay home and stay quiet, and I'd rather hang out with my dog and my book. That's the introverted part of me that pulls in. Sometimes I'm an extrovert. I want to go out and I want to help and I want to be in service. Here in my daughter with her family, her son's birthday party, I was more of an introvert. I'm going to stay back. I knew what they needed. They needed me to watch the baby, and I just pulled back and I stayed with the little babies and we stayed there and was a little bit more on the quiet side. When I had little kids, I was the extrovert. I was handling the party. I was making sure all the guests had what they needed. So all of us can find the middle way. And we won't label ourselves introvert or extrovert. Those are all psychological labels that the ego has created so that we can categorize people and make you feel good about how you're blocking yourself from your truth. And then you have a label. Oh, we're ADHDs. No wonder we can't sit still. Oh, no, that's not true. You could sit still if you activated your free will. But because we don't teach those things, connect with the truth of who you are and know your authority so you can tap into that. We have all kinds of excuses for why everybody has some kind of a issue, and then it's acceptable because some person with a certificate and a white coat said that you have an issue. And now we give permission to somebody who got indoctrinated away from their mind connecting to God and instead has this description and definition of what your problem is. And of course, they're going to put you on pharma pills. You know why? Why not? That's how the money circulates. When you begin to step back and you can begin to see, wow, then you can see the insanity of the prisons that we live inside of that we had no idea we were in. Yet every single one of us feels imprisoned in some way. We just don't know what those prison bars are like. But free will must lead to freedom. Judgment always imprisons because it separates segments of reality by the unacceptable scales of desire or unstable scales of desire. Well, I wish I was more, I wish I could speak out more and then I would have more friends, but I'm an introvert, So we've got these labels, we're imprisoned and we separate the segments. I'm an introvert and you're talkative, so I can't hang out with you. I'm ADHD and you like the room quiet, so well, I can't be in your classroom. So I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. Well, we can't have conversations. Why? Because we have these bars that we have constructed around us by beliefs that we hold, by people who gave them to us. A lot of them we trusted when they gave them to us, and people that we've given authority to, false authority. We've already gone and we will go again over the big sections that speak about the idols that we create, and we say they have power, they have knowledge, they know better than I do. And when you move out of giving your power away and you accept the truth of who you are as God created you, man, everything changes. But get ready, because you're going to have to use your free will to free yourself, because you got to start changing your mind, start changing your beliefs, stop believing the things that are giving you the same old results that you say you don't want. So wishes are not fact. To wish is to imply that willing is not sufficient. Listen to the powerful statement of this thought. To wish is to imply that willing is not sufficient. I wish I was more of an extrovert. That implies that I don't have the ability to make myself more talkative. This is a slippery slope of wishing and wanting and waiting. And it's going to come from me to me from the fairy out there. The knight in shining armor is going to bring it to me. The government's going to bring it to me one day. Oh, the lottery is going to give it to me. I'm wishing that it's going to come. I'm wishing the systems will change. But willing, are you willing to do your part to remove the barriers that you have built against love? Are you willing to question every thought that you have that confines you into a limitation of who you are, even though God created you unlimited? Are you willing to humble yourself enough to say, I don't know it all, so that you can acknowledge, yes, I'm ignorant, but I'm also not arrogant. And when we hit that middle way, that combination of no longer ignorant and no longer arrogant, we move down. It's like we slide down this little path that allows for our pride, our spiritual pride. I am as God created me. I deserve to express my voice. But before I go on using my voice with my spiritualized ego, I'm going to tap into God and find my voice. And you know what? When you tap into your voice, you leave this world a better place. The voice that God gave you is always in service to the greater good of all. When you look at the characteristics of a teacher of God, honesty is one of those characteristics. And honesty is you being consistently honest about who you are, meaning accepting that you are as God created you. And one of the statements in honesty is that everything that you do when you know you are as God created you is always in service to all mankind. You wouldn't do anything deliberately to hurt anybody. Not possible. It's not possible, because at this frequency, there's no selfishness. There's no egoic judgments. That doesn't exist. The ego has slowly been burning away. And what is emerging is the truth of who you are. Maybe you're coming to know it for the first time and you haven't seen that aspect of yourself since you were 1, 2, 3, or 4 years old. But to wish for things to change it just implies that you don't have the willingness to be the change you want to see in the world. And that's ego bullshit. It's lies. It keeps us small. It keeps us pretending we're not who we are. It gives us permission to be imprisoned and not take responsibility for the fact that we are the change we want to see in the world. And of course, it starts within. Yet no one in his right mind believes that what is wished is as real as what is willed. We Nobody, when you come to know who you really are, you realize I'm not going to sit here and wish for things to get better. I'm going to do something about it. Why? Because we've been given a physical vessel. We have a body vessel to do things. We have a mind that when it taps into God, we can go to the river of creativity. We can put our hand in and grab a fish and bring out a piece of creativity that then we use our will. We use this body, this voice, this knowledge, the hands on the piano, the pencil to paper to write the song or write the new invention that is going to free humanity from paying for electricity like we did we had not thousand hundreds of years ago with Nikola Tesla. When things are done for the greater good, they serve all of mankind. Why? Because we are one. And this idea of judgment keeps us separate. So in our mind, we stay righteous. I'm right, they're wrong. And it perpetuates the game of separation. And when we're separate and we're feeling victimized and we're feeling, we don't have enough, then we're wishing somebody would save me and give me more. Free yourself where you are and find the willingness to change the situation, to take the action that is necessary. It's just so simple. Sentence number 8 says, instead of seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, say, will ye first the kingdom of heaven. Don't look for the kingdom. Will yourself to be the kingdom of heaven. Will yourself to be an example of the truth of who you are. Be the change you want to see in the world. I love another little nugget attributed to Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world. Stop wishing and seeking for it and wanting it. And I think there's a song, wishing and waiting and wanting. It's one of the Broadway shows. Stop that. Begin to acknowledge that if in you is a song, if in you is a painting, if in you is an idea, if in you is just the awareness of the truth of who you are, then activate your will. Do something about it. It's a crazy paradox. In the beginning of our journey, we're learning to be still, stop doing, and just be still. Yes, that's necessary. You got to go in. But then when you come in and you know who you are and you can't help but want to do. Why? Because you want to put into motion what you are. You want to share it with the world because it's so exciting, because what you do for one, you do for all. That's the beauty of understanding our oneness. So instead of seeking the kingdom, will yourself to be the kingdom. And you have said, because this is what happens when you acknowledge that, I know what I am and I accept my own inheritance. If you desire for something to change, accept the inheritance that was given to you. If it is placed in your heart to do something about it, do it. If it is not placed in your heart to do something about it, quit whining about it. Quit wishing and waiting and hoping somebody else will fix it. Do you know how many countless of hours we lose judging and complaining and blaming and talking about all that was done? Every single time that we're judging, we're leaking energy. We're literally letting our energy out. That's why our bodies get shriveled up and die. That's why death happens before we're 100 years old. Many people in their 70s. Why? Because we leak so much energy. It's like, a tire. Everybody here has had a tire with a pinhole in it, and you can go for a while. You can even go for a week and still operate. But you're leaking energy little by little by little. Every one of us has so many pinholes in us with our judgments and our shames and our guilt, and we're leaking energy. No wonder, you shrivel up by the time you're dead because you're out of your life force. Stay plump, my friends. I don't know where that came from. Know the truth of who you are. Harness the power of God that is within you. You are the essence of God on this planet. You are the light of the world. We are the light of the world. We don't need anybody else's light. We don't need to take it and shame anybody for theirs. Own the light that you are. Come to know who you are and then will yourself to be who you are. Take the action and be you. It is so challenging. I can tell you because I know it firsthand. There is a time that when we're undoing, we just don't feel like moving, we don't feel like doing anything. If you're in that stage of the journey, just sit there in the undoing. Let yourself fully deflate the ego. And when you tap into God, you are going to fill back up again because the source that fills us, that indwells us, is a never ending source and it wants to flow through us. And all of us can go into way beyond 100 years, live totally, completely healthy till the very end, full of vitality until the day that we either decide, you know what, this is it, I'm done. Or you just fall asleep and you have the death experience in your sleep and that's it. We don't have to have all this drama that we have created around death. But to get to that point where death is so simple, you do as Jesus did. You just leave your body. You are not your body. You release the life force that is in you and you say, I'm complete with this life. I've done my best. I've done what I needed to come here to do. I ascended because I knew I wanted to ascend in frequency. I'm at another level. I'm ready to come in for my next assignment. And guess what? If you come to planet Earth, you're going to get an ego because that is what happens here. And then if you get your ego, and you'll move into separation, you'll have the perfect lessons to help you see that you're not your ego. But you will have moved to a higher frequency, meaning you'll see things sooner and you'll see it more clearly. And before you know it, the bulk of humanity is going to be, in my opinion, within a couple of generations, is going to be operating on this in this world, but not of it, because we are going to see the God in each and every one of us. We're not going to be blaming and shaming and judging anybody else. We're going to have matured enough to everybody operate as the presence of God. Yes, the drama is going to be gone. But what is going to be left is collaboration and cooperation. We don't know that world fully yet, but we have to become that change if we want to see it in the world fully. And the way to do that, you have to will to be how God created you. Don't settle for being a Xerox, a faded Xerox copy of yourself. Be who you are as God created you. Find your authentic voice and then express it fully. Thank you so much for being here. If anybody has any comments or anything you want to share, great, unmute yourself. Otherwise, wherever you are and you've enjoyed these, please find all the other episodes on my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's been growing like crazy. I think I've got like 1,500 followers now. It's like, wow. And people watch these videos and they leave comments. It's so heartwarming. Um, Anyways, if you enjoyed this, share it with others and let's spread if you think this is, you know, good information. And let's see, nobody's gonna mute. Great. You all,
Thank you, darling. I appreciate you so.
of course, sweetie. Thank you so much. You guys, some of you I'll see later on today. So bye everybody. Love you all so much.
Thank you, Lena. Love you. Bye.
Bye, sweetie. So glad that you're here.